So the awakening is the falling away of what we thought we were. When we turn away from the ever-changing, we notice that doesn't change. And that's prior to concepts. The story of who we are hasn't formed, isn't there? The sense that we just are undeniably here. And then that turns into I'm here, my story, my. But if we trace it back to just the sense I am, and that I am can have identity applied to it. But if we don't add that, if we just effortlessly are simply here without adding anything, that is our true nature. And it's as if that sense of I am then dissipates. It can't be pinned down. You know, some sort of subtle position that maybe is applied to that I am, some centering, some posturing, you know, I am. You can just let that dissipate and then turn towards what's left, just the attention. Because when attention is turned towards the ever-changing, it has a potential and there's habit and there's of this movement to go out, and we're already what we're looking for. And the perception shift is just what we are is no longer adopting, in a way, it's just a way of speaking, a lens of a me, no longer looking for itself through this point of view. So what was believed to be looking dissipates, and what's left is that it can't be pinned down. And very often, immediately, there's a turning towards the ever-changing again through habit. So just habit appearing, not somebody's habit, just habit appearing, just tendencies, just patterns of experience. So it's to be, it's just to be what you are. Because it's not a doing, it's what you already are. So there's no effort. Effort appears in this. You know, that can be a contraction or a leaning forward or a got to get it sort of feeling. But it's already the case, so we can just relax. Just rest as what we are and turn towards that. That we've always been. We've never not been this. So it's not something you attain. It's not a position or some sort of goal. It's simply seeing what you've always been. And it's not a me that thought they were somebody and now the me has woken up. That is part of the movement. It's seen that we never were the me. The me was a label, you know, a concept. We can't squidge this formless. We can't squidge what we are. I can't even put labels on it now. We can't squidge what we are into a concept, into a label. Just like you can't put water into a label. It just doesn't make sense. So that's the direct experience of water, the direct experience of what you are, rather than the label, rather the concept of an I or a me. Just what you fundamentally are. Is what remains when thoughts, emotions, and experience change. So that's the ever-changing. Appearing and disappearing. That can just have identity added. Not by somebody. Just life can experience itself as a me. Can add a sense of position. But what knows that never changes. Is totally unaltered by all of the movements. A little bit like a mirror is unaltered by what goes in front of it. It can appear to change, but fundamentally it never changes, never becomes anything. So again, I'll just remind you to turn attention inward. And if we're up in the mind trying to work anything out, we can just drop down, down, down. And we start to notice that habit to go up, that habit to go out. And it's not a problem. Because the ever-changing gives us chance, especially if it's really dense, to go, oh, hang on a minute, what doesn't change? Especially, when it's really dense, when it's really sort of a challenging experience. So we don't deny any of that experience. But who's it happening to? So we turn our attention towards what we are, and we can't find a me that's suffering. I'm not saying there's not suffering appearing, contractions appearing, but when we turn to have a look at what's actual and direct experience, we can't find anything. Well, you find what you are, but what you are can't be pinned down. So you just find what you are. And there's great relief there because it's unaltered, not in a disassociate, we're not pushing it away. We're just recognizing that what we are fundamentally doesn't change. It's totally free from all of the movements. So it's sort of free to dive in, really. It doesn't separate itself out. It doesn't choose, one over the other. It knows that all of these are just movements. It never becomes this one that prefers pleasure over pain. If we look in direct experience now, turning towards what we are, does what we are prefer pleasure or pain without going to a mind? It's totally free of all of those movements. That we can notice that. Obviously, the mind is going to come up with all sorts of scenarios, but what we are is prior to the mind. So it knows the concepts that the mind offers up. And there's often just a deep peace. When that attention is on what we are, we give it long enough to not be overlooked by turning attention and going towards the ever-changing. But long enough, we turn inwards, long enough to recognize what we are. And again, using that friction, the drama of life to check, to confirm what we are. So it's actually a positive. It's actually a gift. I know it doesn't seem like it is. But the drama is actually a gift because it's revealing what you are. And I'm not saying ignoring the drama. I'm not saying don't do it. There's practical steps to be taken. There's wise action to be taken, but we're not in fear and panic. Not in limitation, not in little me that's got to survive. We can look at what's the best course of action in this moment that I could do that would help. So that's life saying that, there's no me. Life is having the me experience. And we could just check, what are we? Prior to thoughts and concepts and ideas. What's actually here? And the more we look, the more it reveals itself to itself. It's not a me. It's not revealing it to a me. The me is seen to have never, only to have been an experience. Only to be an idea, an assumption. So can we fundamentally be absent? I mean, we've got to be here all the time, haven't we? We've got to be what's always. We can't lose ourselves. We can't leave ourselves. Where would we go? Where would we be going if we left ourselves? There is nowhere where we're not. We can't leave ourselves. Yet there can be an experience of coming home. Oh, I'm home, back to my true nature. Oh, I'm caught up in my thought. That me experience is now taken to be who we are. And then the attention comes back. Oh, I'm home. But at some point, there's the recognition that me doesn't exist. It's just an experience. What doesn't come and go, what's always here, what we can't leave, what's never absent is what we are. Because it has to be to know all of the ever-changing. But that knows experience doesn't come and go, does it? It doesn't come and go with the experiences. It's just to notice that. So what doesn't move is the last one. And I'm just going to share something that happened for me this week. I had a long car journey, about 4 hours. I'd driven 4 hours the day before. And Now, I know how the mind would have operated. It would have said, oh, I've got to get there. What time am I going to get there? I've done a full day's work. I'm going to be tired. Is it going to be dark when I get there? It would have done all this projection. It would have, it would have created a story about the journey of a me experiencing the journey. But that doesn't rise up anymore because I don't believe in that me that's talking. There's no reference point for it. So there are still thoughts, but not that sort of suffering, calculating how am I going to do this sort of thoughts. There's still thoughts, but not that. So I just recognized before I set off, I just knew how it could have been, what the potential was to have this sort of trying to calculate the journey and think about how tired I'm possibly going to be. And I just recognized that I don't move. It was just the realization, hang on a minute. So what I am just simply is. The end of the journey is going to be exactly the same. Nothing is going to have changed or moved. It was just so obvious, the realization that what I am doesn't move, doesn't go anywhere, because it will remain the same. So the experience changes. So the traffic jam, and then there was a free, easy road, and I was able to go quite fast. And then it was just, it was lovely. And then I saw Stonehenge just rose up. It was just amazing. And the sun setting, and it was beautiful. So this was the ever changing. I wasn't changing. I wasn't moving anywhere. The scenery was moving. But what I am doesn't move. Because if we're formless, there's no boundary, no center. You just simply are all the time. You just simply are. So yes, there is an experience of moving, but it was just plainly seen that I'm going to change. I'm not moving. What's here now is going to be what's there at the end of the journey, and that what that is unaltered by all of that. Totally unaltered by. All of the experiences. So what we're pointing to is effortless. And I think I know for myself, because I can only really speak for myself. There was this effort, this movement away from what I am. And that movement created the idea of a me through thoughts, feelings, and emotions having identity applied to them. So it's a mistaken identity at this point of view. And then searching, feeling like I've lost something, I need to get it. But it was always searching out in the world. And it's just that attention turning into what's actually looking and spending long enough looking at what's looking. And so that's effortless because it's already the case. And all effort to find your true nature is what's appearing. The movements, the thoughts, the feelings of not being there yet are all known by what you are. Is that when you turn inwards, is there a sense that what you are can't be pinned down? I mean, obviously the mind could come up with all sorts of things. With attention rested down, not in the head. Down, down, that's it. Down, down, sort of view up in the head. Down, down, down. Even just in the heart center. Turning inwards. For me, the storylines drop and there's nothing that can be really grasped or labeled. I feel it's just to remain turning in. And then, yeah, it just becomes what's interesting. So for the human experience that life is having, it becomes more and more obvious what we are. So then the ever-changing is seen through. There's less weight added to the ever-changing. And that seems to be more and more because we already are it. And then there's weight added to it, which gives us a feeling of not being there. So with less weight being added, less patterning, somebody says something and there's a habit to pattern. And this is life doing all of this. It then wakes itself up through form, through experiencing. There was the falling asleep and the waking up, but what you are doesn't do any of that. They're the dance. That's the play. That's how it can experience. So the remembering and the forgetting are appearing in, are known by what we are. And it's just turning towards what that is. And not trying to work anything out with the mind because it's already the case. So we don't need the mind to work it out. Potentially just to inquire, where is this me? Can we find it? Where is the I? And if you're left with no answer, that's the answer.